You settle into stillness, and as the outside world loosens its grip, your attention drifts inward. Not inward as a direction, but inward as a feeling. Toward the quiet places you rarely visit. Toward the hidden rooms where life hums softly without asking for notice. Here, inside you, there is a language that never sleeps, never pauses, never raises its voice. It has been speaking since before you were born, and it will continue long after this moment fades into rest. This language is not made of sounds or symbols you can see. It does not form sentences or stories the way you were used to. Instead, it exists as a gentle pattern, written in spirals so small they escape imagination. Inside nearly every cell of your body, there lies a thread-like presence, carefully folded, patiently waiting. This is DNA, though you do not need to hold the word tightly. You can think of it as a quiet alphabet, resting in the dark, content to be unnoticed. There are only 4 letters in this alphabet. Just 4. They repeat endlessly, over and over, like a lullaby with a limited melody. Adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine. You do not need to remember their names. What matters is their simplicity. Life, in all its texture and variety, emerges from these 4 repeating notes. It is almost unbelievable, and yet, here you are, breathing easily, carried by their steady rhythm. You imagine these letters not as ink on a page, but as tiny shapes reaching for one another. Each letter knows which partner it belongs with. There is comfort in this certainty. Adenine always finds thymine. Cytosine always finds guanine. No confusion. No hesitation. Just a calm, reliable matching, happening millions of times each second within you. It feels reassuring, this quiet fidelity, this sense that something deep inside you always knows what to do. The DNA strand twists gently, like a ladder turned into a spiral staircase. You can picture yourself drifting along it, step by step, feeling its steady curve. Each rung holds a pair of letters, joined together, forming a message that stretches on and on. Some parts repeat like a chorus. Others are unique, holding instructions that belong only to you. Yet none of it rushes. The message is timeless. It has been copied across generations, passed down like a whispered secret, refined but familiar. You may notice how this language does not act on its own. DNA does not move through your body, barking orders or demanding attention. It stays where it is, protected, tucked safely inside the nucleus of each cell. It is a library that does not wander. A book that does not chase its readers. It waits, calmly, trusting that when the time comes, it will be read. This waiting is important. It reminds you that not everything meaningful needs to be loud or urgent. Some of the most powerful instructions in existence are written in a voice so soft it feels like silence. Your DNA has no awareness of you as a person. It does not know your name or your worries. And yet, through its quiet repetition, it shapes the structure of your body, the chemistry of your thoughts, the rhythm of your sleep. You begin to sense how this alphabet is not about words, but about possibility. Each small sequence carries the potential for action, but not the action itself. It is like a recipe written on a page, patient and still, waiting for someone to cook. The letters do not become food on their own. They simply describe what could be, if the moment is right. As your breathing deepens, you notice how this mirrors your own experience. Thoughts arise, but you do not act on all of them. Memories surface, but you do not relive each one. Potential exists everywhere, but only some of it moves forward. Inside your cells, the same gentle restraint is always present. The alphabet waits. It does not demand expression. It allows space for timing. You might imagine the DNA as being aware of the body it supports, but it is not. It is indifferent in the most peaceful way. It does not judge, correct, or interfere. It simply exists, stable and consistent. And perhaps that is why it works so well. There is no anxiety in its structure, no doubt woven into its form. Just repetition, balance, and trust. As you float with this idea, you may feel smaller, but not insignificant. Instead, you feel connected. Your body is not a chaotic accident, but a careful unfolding of simple rules followed patiently over time. The alphabet inside you does not need to understand the final result. It only needs to remain true to its quiet pattern. This realization softens something in you. The pressure to know everything, to control outcomes, to understand the whole picture. Your cells do not know the whole picture either. They know only their small part, their single line in a vast, ongoing script. And still, life happens. Still, you breathe. Still, you rest. You sense now that this alphabet is not static. It is stable, yes, but not frozen. It can be read. It can be copied. It can be interpreted when the moment arrives. For now, though, it rests, folded gently, like a book closed at night, confident that morning will come when it is needed. Your awareness lingers here, at the edge of understanding, where letters exist but have not yet become instructions. Where information is present, but intention has not yet formed. And as your thoughts slow even further, you begin to feel the subtle anticipation of movement, the quiet promise that soon, this stillness will gently begin to stir, and the waiting alphabet will start to open itself, one page at a time. You remain in the quiet space you have entered, where everything feels slower and softer. The alphabet inside you is still there, resting patiently, but now something subtle begins to shift. Not with force, not with urgency, but with a gentle readiness, like the feeling just before you turn over and sleep. Information that has been waiting begins to sense the possibility of movement. Inside one of your cells, the long spiral of DNA rests within its protective home. It is folded carefully, not tangled, not tense. Most of the time, it stays this way, undisturbed, conserving its calm. But life is not static, and neither are you. There are moments when your body needs to act, to build, to repair, to respond. And when that moment arrives, the stillness gives way to intention. You can imagine the DNA responding not to commands, but to signals, like a listener recognizing a familiar rhythm. Certain chemical whispers drift through the cell, carrying information about what is needed. Perhaps a protein must be made. Perhaps a signal must be sent. The DNA does not decide in the way a mind decides. It simply becomes available. A small region of the DNA loosens, unzipping just enough to be read. This opening is precise and temporary. The rest of the molecule remains closed, content to wait its turn. You sense how careful this process is, how respectful it feels. Nothing is exposed without reason. Nothing is rushed. As the strands separate, the letters become visible in a new way. Not to eyes, but to molecules designed for this exact purpose. An enzyme arrives, moving along the open section like a finger tracing lines of text. It does not understand meaning, yet it reads flawlessly. It knows how to pair each DNA letter with its matching partner, creating a new strand alongside the original. This new strand is not DNA. It is RNA, a close relative, slightly more flexible, slightly more temporary. If DNA is the library, RNA is the note you copy down to carry with you. You feel the poetry in this difference. The original stays safe, untouched, while a working copy is made to travel outward. This copying process is called transcription, but you do not need the word. You can feel it instead. It is the moment when information becomes portable. When stillness becomes readiness. The RNA strand forms carefully, letter by letter, guided entirely by what it touches. There is no creativity here, only faithful repetition. And yet, this simple copying is the first step toward action. You notice how nothing about this feels dramatic. No alarms sound. No lights flash. The cell continues its quiet rhythm while this copying unfolds. It happens constantly, everywhere, without your awareness. Even now, as your body rests, countless RNA messages are being written, each one with a specific purpose, each one destined for a brief existence. Once the message is complete, the RNA detaches gently and begins its journey. It leaves the nucleus, passing through tiny openings that regulate what comes and goes. This movement feels symbolic, like a thought leaving your mind and becoming a spoken word. The information is no longer stored. It is in motion. As the RNA drifts into the wider space of the cell, you sense a shift in energy. This is intention forming, not as desire, but as direction. The message carries no awareness of its destination, yet it moves with certainty. It does not question whether it will be understood. It trusts the system it belongs to. You may notice how this mirrors your own inner life. Ideas exist quietly within you, waiting. Most remain unspoken, folded safely away. But sometimes a thought opens. It finds a path outward. It becomes a sentence, an action, a change. Not because you force it, but because the moment feels right. Inside the cell, the RNA is protected, but not permanent. Its fragility is part of its design. It is meant to be used, not preserved. This impermanence gives it urgency, though not haste. It must be read before it fades. And so, the cell responds, guiding the message toward where it will be interpreted. You begin to understand that intention in biology is not conscious, but it is real. It is the alignment between need and action. The body does not think about what it is doing, yet it does exactly what is required. Information flows into purpose as naturally as breath flows into movement. As your breathing slows, you feel comfort in this quiet efficiency. There is no wasted effort here. The cell does not open every book at once. It selects only what is needed, when it is needed. This restraint keeps the system balanced, responsive, and calm. The RNA continues its journey, floating through the cytoplasm like a message carried on a slow current. Around it, countless other processes unfold, each one focused, each one local. No single part knows the whole story. And still, the story continues, uninterrupted. You sense that this is where meaning truly begins to take shape. Not in the letters themselves, but in their willingness to move. Information alone is potential. Movement transforms it into something closer to action. Yet even now, nothing has been built. The message has not been read. It has only arrived. Your awareness lingers with this moment of arrival. The pause between preparation and creation. The space where intention gathers itself before becoming real. And as you drift closer to sleep, you feel the gentle anticipation of the next step, when this quiet message will finally be received, and the cell's smallest workshop will begin its patient work. You remain suspended in the gentle pause left behind by the last movement. The message has been written, released from its place of origin, and now it begins its quiet journey. You imagine it floating softly, not hurried, not hesitant, simply carried forward by the steady inner tide of the cell. This messenger does not announce itself. It does not glow or call for attention. It moves the way moonlight moves across a floor, present, subtle, undeniable. This messenger is RNA, and unlike the long, carefully guarded DNA, it is built for travel. It is single-stranded, lighter, more flexible, less burdened by permanence. You sense how this difference matters. Something meant to move cannot be rigid. Something meant to speak briefly must accept that it will not last. RNA carries its message knowing it will one day dissolve, and this acceptance gives it purpose. As the RNA drifts through the cytoplasm, it passes through a crowded, living landscape. Molecules glide past one another with practiced ease. Structures rise and fall, assemble and disassemble, all without noise or confusion. There is no central command here, no overseer directing traffic. Each component responds only to what it touches, and yet the whole feels coordinated, almost graceful. You may imagine the RNA as a handwritten note folded carefully and slipped into motion. It contains instructions copied faithfully from the DNA, but it does not explain them. It does not interpret itself. It simply presents its sequence, trusting that somewhere ahead, something knows how to read it. This trust is absolute. The messenger never questions whether it will be understood. You feel how fragile this message is. Unlike DNA, RNA is exposed. Enzymes that would never harm the genetic archive can break RNA down easily. This vulnerability is not a flaw, it is a feature. Messages that linger too long can cause imbalance. By being temporary, RNA ensures that instructions are timely, relevant, and responsive to the present moment. As your breath deepens, you sense a parallel within yourself. Thoughts arise and fade. Sensations pass through you and disappear. Nothing remains unchanged for long, and yet this constant movement is what allows life to feel fluid instead of frozen. Inside your cells, the same principle applies. Impermanence creates flow. The RNA continues drifting, guided not by intention, but by probability and attraction. It bumps gently against structures, brushes past proteins, and eventually finds itself near a ribosome. The ribosome waits quietly, like a dock at night, ready to receive whatever arrives. It does not seek specific messages. It simply remains open. Before the message is read, it pauses. This pause is subtle but important. It is the last moment where the message exists purely as information, not yet transformed into action. You linger here too, in this in-between space. The space between knowing and doing. Between rest and motion. You notice how many such transitions exist within you. A breath before a sigh. A thought before a word. A feeling before a decision. These spaces are often overlooked, yet they shape everything that follows. Inside the cell, this pause allows accuracy. It allows alignment. It allows the system to be ready. The RNA aligns itself with the ribosome, fitting into place with quiet precision. Nothing forces the connection. The shapes simply match. This matching is not symbolic, it is physical. Form recognizes form. Compatibility is felt, not reasoned. And once the alignment is complete, the message is ready to be read. But the reading does not begin all at once. The ribosome moves along the RNA slowly, 3 letters at a time. These small groupings form units of meaning, though no one inside the cell knows that meaning is a story. They only know the next step. Always the next step. Never the whole. You feel comforted by this limitation. No part of the system is burdened with understanding everything. Each piece is responsible only for what comes next. And still, complexity emerges. Still, life unfolds with astonishing coherence. As the ribosome reads, helper molecules arrive, each carrying a single building block. These helpers recognize specific 3-letter sequences and respond instantly, without hesitation. They bring exactly what is needed, no more, no less. This accuracy feels almost intimate, like being understood without explanation. You notice how quiet this process is. No energy is wasted on doubt. No effort is spent reconsidering. The system has learned, over unimaginable spans of time, how to trust itself. Inside you, this trust operates constantly, even when your conscious mind feels uncertain. The RNA remains central, holding the sequence steady as it is translated into something new. Yet with every step forward, its role diminishes. It is being used, read, consumed in purpose. This is not a loss. This is fulfillment. Eventually, the message reaches its end. The ribosome releases it, and the RNA drifts away, its task complete. Soon, it will be broken down, its components recycled, its existence gently erased. There is no ceremony. No record kept. The system moves on. You sense how peaceful this ending is. The message does not cling to relevance. It does not try to remain important. It was needed, it served, and now it rests. There is wisdom here, if you allow yourself to feel it. As sleep draws you deeper, you feel gratitude for these unseen messengers working constantly on your behalf. Carrying instructions, enabling action, then disappearing without demand. You realize how much of life depends on things that do not last. And as the messenger fades, what it helped begin remains. Something is forming now, quietly, patiently, bead by bead. And you drift onward, ready to follow the gentle construction as it begins to take shape. You drift closer now to the place where intention quietly becomes form. The messenger has arrived, and you follow it into a space that feels both busy and serene. This is the ribosome's workshop, though it does not resemble anything mechanical or loud. There are no sparks, no sharp edges, no sense of urgency. Instead, there is a steady presence, a readiness that feels almost kind. The ribosome does not think of itself as a factory. It has no concept of work or outcome. It simply exists in a shape that allows something important to happen. It is made of folded RNA and proteins, arranged in a way that invites cooperation. When a message arrives, the ribosome does not question it. It opens, receives, and begins. You imagine the ribosome as a small dock at night, lights low, water calm. Messages arrive one by one, and each is welcomed the same way. There is no preference, no judgment. Only alignment. Only fit. The message settles into place, and the process begins with a quiet certainty. The ribosome reads the RNA not as a sentence, but as a rhythm. 3 letters at a time, like soft footsteps on a familiar path. Each step is discrete, intentional, and complete on its own. There is no rush to reach the end. The ribosome knows nothing about what is being built. It only knows how to move forward. As each group of 3 letters passes through, a corresponding helper molecule arrives. These helpers carry single building blocks, amino acids, though the word itself is less important than the feeling they bring. They arrive gently, almost eagerly, guided by shape and attraction rather than thought. Each helper recognizes its moment and steps forward without hesitation. You sense how intimate this matching is. It is not forced. It is not negotiated. The shapes simply belong together. When they meet, there is a brief moment of stillness, a quiet confirmation, and then the building block is added to a growing chain. One by one, these pieces link together, forming something that did not exist moments before. The ribosome holds this growing chain carefully, never grasping too tightly. It allows space for movement, for flexibility. The chain extends outward, lengthening with each step, still unaware of what it will become. There is trust here. Trust that shape will emerge. Trust that sequence will matter. Around this process, the cell continues its life. Other messages arrive at other ribosomes. Other chains grow, fold, and drift away. Nothing stops to watch. Nothing waits for completion. The system does not admire itself. It simply continues, layer upon layer, moment by moment. You feel soothed by this lack of self-awareness. No part of the cell worries about doing its job well. No part doubts its purpose. Everything functions because it fits, because it responds, because it has done this countless times before. There is a deep lesson here, resting beneath the surface. The ribosome advances steadily along the RNA. Each movement is powered by small exchanges of energy, tiny pulses that feel more like breathing than effort. Forward motion, pause. Forward motion, pause. A rhythm you recognize, because it mirrors your own breath as you lie here, listening. Mistakes are rare, but not impossible. When something does not fit, it simply does not attach. The system moves on, trying again. There is no frustration in this. No sense of failure. Only correction. Only patience. Accuracy emerges from repetition, not pressure. As the chain grows longer, it begins to interact with the space around it. It brushes against other molecules, folds slightly, responds to its environment. Even before it is finished, it begins to take on tendencies, preferences, a quiet personality shaped entirely by sequence and physics. The ribosome remains focused, though focus here is not concentration. It is alignment. The ribosome does not hold the entire chain in awareness. It holds only the moment it is in. This is enough. This is always enough. Eventually, the ribosome reaches the end of the message. There is a subtle shift, a gentle signal that says, "This is complete." The ribosome releases the chain, and the finished product drifts free. There is no celebration, no acknowledgement. The ribosome simply resets, ready for the next message. You follow the newly formed chain as it floats away, still warm with recent assembly. It is not yet finished in its journey. It will fold, adjust, and find its place. But its creation began here, in this quiet workshop, guided by cooperation rather than command. You feel comforted knowing that such precise work happens constantly inside you without effort or awareness. While you sleep, countless ribosomes read countless messages, building the molecules that maintain your body, your thoughts, your rest. There is something deeply reassuring about this unseen care. The ribosome does not know you exist. And yet, its steady work supports every breath you take. It does not strive for meaning. It creates it anyway. This paradox feels gentle, not unsettling. Meaning does not require intention. Sometimes, it emerges simply because systems align. As your body grows heavier with rest, you sense the quiet wisdom in this process. No single part understands the whole, yet the whole is sustained. No component carries the burden of outcome, yet outcomes arise. Cooperation does not need awareness to be effective. You rest with this idea, letting it settle into you. That perhaps you, too, do not need to understand everything you are becoming. That perhaps showing up, step by step, responding to what fits, is enough. And as your thoughts soften further, you drift alongside the newly formed chain, curious about how these simple pieces will soon begin to link together, bead by bead, forming something even more intricate as the night continues to unfold. You stay with the newly released chain as it drifts away from the ribosome's gentle hold. It is long now, longer than when it began, yet still unfinished in its own quiet way. This chain is made of amino acids, small and simple molecules that feel almost humble in their individuality. Alone, each one is unremarkable. Together, they become something capable of movement, structure, and change. You imagine these amino acids as beads, each slightly different in shape and texture. Some are smooth, some slightly charged, some prefer water, others shy away from it. They do not choose these preferences. They simply are. And as they are linked together, one by one, these preferences begin to matter. The linking itself is steady and unceremonious. Each amino acid joins the next through a bond that forms reliably, as if it has always known how. There is no uncertainty in this joining. The system has done this so many times that the movement feels practiced, almost soothing. Add one. Pause. Add another. Pause. A rhythm you can feel settling into your own breathing. The order of these beads is everything. Not because any single beat is special, but because sequence shapes possibility. A slight change in order can alter everything that follows. Yet no one overseeing this process is aware of the final outcome. The ribosome does not know what the chain will do. The amino acids do not know what they are becoming. They trust the order completely. You sense how this trust mirrors something within you. You make choices without always seeing where they lead. You take steps guided by what fits now, not by certainty about the future. And somehow, patterns form. Meaning emerges. Inside your cells, this same faith and sequence unfolds continuously. As the chain lengthens, it begins to feel its own presence. Not in awareness, but in physics. Parts of it tug gently toward one another. Certain beads feel drawn together, while others prefer distance. These attractions are subtle but persistent. They wait patiently for the right moment to act. For now, the chain remains mostly extended, like a loose string held in the current of the cell. It brushes past water molecules, bends slightly, straightens again. Nothing forces it into shape yet. This is still a time of becoming, of openness. The chain does not rush ahead of itself. You notice how this stage feels vulnerable. A long, unfinished chain could tangle or misfold if pushed too quickly. But the system allows space. Time is not compressed here. The cell understands that precision grows from patience. Each amino acid carries its own quiet tendency. Some seek connection, others resist it. Some prefer to hide, others to face outward. When linked together, these tendencies do not disappear. They accumulate. They create tension and harmony along the length of the chain. You feel comforted by the idea that complexity arises not from control, but from accumulated simplicity. No single amino acid needs to understand the whole. It only needs to express what it is. The rest unfolds naturally. As the chain floats, helper proteins may arrive, offering gentle guidance. They do not force shape. They merely prevent mistakes, shielding the chain from collapsing too soon or tangling incorrectly. Their presence feels like a steady hand nearby, ready but not intrusive. You recognize this feeling too. Support that does not interfere. Guidance that allows you to find your own form. Inside your cells, care is often quiet and indirect. The chain continues to exist in this suspended state, complete in sequence but not yet in function. It is like a sentence written but not yet spoken aloud. Or a melody composed but not yet played. Potential hums softly within it. You sense how everything so far has been about order. Letters forming messages. Messages guiding assembly. Assembly creating sequence. Each step builds upon the last, not erasing it, but transforming it. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is rushed. As your body relaxes further, you feel your thoughts slowing into a similar pattern. One thought arrives. It links gently to the next. You do not chase meaning. You allow it to form if it wishes. The chain drifts toward a new phase of its journey. The environment around it begins to matter more. Temperature, chemistry, space. These conditions will soon invite the chain to respond, to bend, to settle into a shape that feels stable. You sense anticipation here, but not excitement. A calm readiness. The chain has everything it needs. Nothing more will be added. What comes next will not involve building outward, but turning inward. You feel how this moment reflects something deeply human. There are times when you gather experiences, skills, memories. And then, quietly, there comes a moment when you stop adding and begin integrating. When growth shifts from accumulation to understanding. Inside the cell, this same transition approaches. The chain is complete. The beads are all in place. Now, the question is not what comes next, but how everything already present will arrange itself. As sleep pulls you deeper, you rest with this idea. That complexity does not arrive suddenly. It is earned slowly, through faithful repetition and trust in order. That becoming does not require urgency. It requires patience. You drift alongside the chain as it begins to feel the first subtle invitations to fold, to curve, to seek balance. And in this quiet anticipation, you sense that the next phase will be less about addition, and more about finding rest in a shape that feels just right. You remain close as the long chain begins to change its way of being. Nothing new is added now. There are no more beads, no further instructions arriving from elsewhere. Everything that will be needed is already present. And so, the work shifts inward. The chain no longer stretches outward into possibility. It starts to listen to itself. At first, the movements are subtle. A slight bend here. A gentle curve there. The chain responds to the quiet forces acting along its length. Some sections feel drawn together, as if recognizing one another after a long separation. Other parts drift apart, preferring space. There is no plan guiding this motion. Only physics, chemistry, and time. You sense how natural this feels. When given the chance, things often settle into shapes that require the least effort to maintain. Inside the cell, the chain seeks comfort, not perfection. It looks for a position where forces balance, where tension eases, where energy is minimized. Rest, even here, is a form of wisdom. As the chain folds, patterns begin to emerge. Spirals form gently, like a ribbon curling in still air. Sheets align beside one another, creating soft, stable layers. These shapes arise not because they are desired, but because they are allowed. The environment invites them. The sequence supports them. You feel something soothing in this inevitability. The chain does not have to decide what it should become. Its form arises from what it already is. Inside you, too, there are qualities that unfold naturally when pressure is removed. When you stop forcing direction, shape finds you. Not every fold is final. Some movements lead to tension rather than ease. When this happens, the chain does not struggle. It loosens, adjusts, and tries again. There are helper proteins nearby, quiet companions that recognize instability. They do not scold or punish. They simply offer space, preventing collapse, allowing another attempt. You notice how forgiving this system is. Misfolds happen. Errors occur. But they are not treated as failures. They are temporary states, corrected through patience rather than force. The cell understands that precision emerges through gentle persistence. As folding continues, the chain begins to compact. What was once long and loose now draws inward, becoming denser, more contained. It feels like watching something exhale. Like a body settling into sleep. This inward movement is not a retreat. It is preparation. With each adjustment, the chain becomes more specific. Its shape begins to suggest what it can do. Grooves form where other molecules may rest. Surfaces appear that invite contact. Hidden regions tuck themselves safely inside, protected from the surrounding water. You sense the quiet truth here: function follows form. What this molecule will do is determined not by intention, but by shape. A slight change in folding could alter everything. Yet there is no anxiety about this fragility. The system has learned how to fold, how to guide, how to correct. As your own body relaxes further, you feel parallels everywhere. Your posture softens. Muscles release their holding patterns. Breath deepens. You, too, are folding into a shape that feels sustainable for the night. Inside the cell, the folding slows as the chain approaches stability. Movements become smaller, more refined. The molecule tests its shape against its environment, responding to subtle cues. When something feels right, it stays. When it doesn't, it shifts. There is no moment when the molecule announces completion. No signal that says, "Now you are finished." Instead, there is a gradual settling, a sense that movement has become minimal. The molecule rests in a configuration that holds. You feel comfort in this lack of finality. Completion is not a sharp edge. It is a soft landing. The molecule is not locked into place forever. Conditions could change. Heat could rise. Chemistry could shift. And if needed, the shape could respond. But for now, this form works. It fits. It belongs. The folded protein drifts gently through the cell, no longer just a sequence, but a presence. It can interact now. It can bind, catalyze, support, or signal. Its purpose emerges not because it was assigned, but because its shape allows certain interactions and not others. You realize how quietly powerful this is. Purpose is not declared. It is enabled. Inside you, many of your own roles may have formed this way. Through accumulated experience, through adaptation, through finding where you naturally fit. The cell does not celebrate this moment. It moves on. Other chains are folding. Other molecules are forming. Life does not pause to admire itself. It continues, confident in processes refined over immense time. As sleep deepens, you rest with this idea of purpose emerging from rest. Of function arising not from striving, but from alignment. The protein does not work harder to become useful. It simply settles into itself. Occasionally, a fold cannot find stability. When this happens, the cell responds gently but firmly. The misfolded protein is guided away, broken down, its pieces recycled. This, too, is not punishment. It is care. The system protects itself by letting go of what does not settle. You feel reassurance here. Not everything must be saved. Not everything must work. Letting go can be a form of intelligence. The folded protein now joins countless others, each with its own shape, its own quiet role. Together, they create the living texture of the cell. Structure, motion, reaction, balance. All of it depends on this silent choreography of folding. Your awareness drifts outward slightly, sensing how many layers of this process are unfolding within you right now. Proteins folding in your muscles, your neurons, your organs. All without your involvement. All while you rest. You feel smaller again, but in a comforting way. You do not need to manage this complexity. You do not need to oversee your own becoming. The body knows how to shape itself. As the night holds you, you sense the folded proteins beginning their work. Some will catalyze reactions. Some will carry signals. Some will simply hold structures together, providing quiet support. And as you drift closer to sleep's deeper currents, you feel a gentle curiosity arise. What do these newly shaped molecules do next? How do they move, interact, and labor while you remain unaware? You rest with that unanswered question, letting it guide you softly onward, knowing that even as you sleep, countless proteins are already at work, keeping life moving with patient, unseen care. You rest now in a deeper stillness, and yet beneath that calm, life continues its quiet motion. The newly folded proteins do not linger and pause for long. Shape has given them possibility, and now possibility becomes movement. They begin their work without announcement, slipping gently into the ongoing rhythm of the cell. Some proteins move with purpose, gliding through the crowded interior like practiced travelers. Others remain in place, forming scaffolds that give the cell its structure and resilience. Some act as messengers, carrying signals from one place to another, while others wait patiently until they are needed. Each role is different, yet none is considered more important than another. You sense how constant this activity is. Even now, as your breathing slows and your muscles soften, proteins are colliding, binding, releasing, and reshaping the chemistry of your body. They do this tirelessly, without awareness, without fatigue. Not because they are driven, but because their shapes allow these interactions to happen naturally. One protein meets another, fitting together briefly like two hands clasping in the dark. This meeting sparks a reaction, transforming one substance into another. Then they separate, unchanged themselves, ready to assist again. This quiet efficiency repeats endlessly, creating the flow of chemistry that keeps you alive. Other proteins act more like guardians. They watch over delicate structures, stabilizing them against disruption. In your cells, proteins hold membranes together, support strands of DNA, and maintain the integrity of tiny machines. They are the unseen beams and braces of life's architecture. You feel comforted by this invisible support. Your body does not collapse into chaos when you stop paying attention. It is held together by countless interactions that do not require your supervision. Even in sleep, especially in sleep, the work continues. Some proteins listen. They sense changes in their environment, shifts in temperature, chemistry, or pressure. When something changes, they respond by altering their shape slightly. This change sends a signal onward, like a whisper passed along a line. In this way, the cell remains aware without consciousness, responsive without thought. You notice how gentle this responsiveness is. There are no sharp reactions unless truly needed. Most adjustments are small, precise, and reversible. Balance is preserved not through rigidity, but through flexibility. As your body rests, proteins in your muscles repair tiny strains from the day. Proteins in your immune system patrol quietly, identifying what belongs and what does not. Proteins in your brain adjust connections, strengthening some pathways while allowing others to fade. Memory itself shifts shape in the dark. None of this is dramatic. There is no sense of urgency or alarm. It feels more like housekeeping than heroics. Life maintains itself through ordinary, repeated acts that never make headlines. You may imagine each protein as a worker on a night shift, lights dimmed, voices low. They know their tasks well. There is no need for instruction. The environment guides them. The shapes they carry determine what they can touch, what they can change, what they must ignore. Mistakes happen here too, but they are quietly handled. A protein that becomes damaged is recognized and guided away. It is unfolded, dismantled, its pieces reused. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is blamed. The system protects itself through calm efficiency. You feel a sense of trust grow as you consider this. Your body is not fragile in the way your worries sometimes suggest. It is resilient, adaptive, quietly intelligent. Even while you sleep, layers of care operate within you. Proteins do not work alone. They form teams, temporary alliances that assemble and dissolve as needed. A group may come together to copy DNA, another to move cargo, another to generate energy. These teams exist only for moments, then disappear, leaving no trace of their cooperation. You sense how fluid this cooperation is. No contracts. No hierarchy. Just fit and function. When the task is done, the partnership ends naturally. There is something deeply restful about this lack of attachment. As the night deepens, your awareness drifts outward and inward at once. You feel your heart beating steadily, supported by proteins that regulate contraction and flow. You feel your lungs rising and falling, shaped by proteins that maintain elasticity. You feel your mind slowing, guided by proteins that modulate signals between neurons. All of this happens without instruction from you. You are not required to understand it. You are allowed to rest. The proteins do not know that you are asleep. They do not know that you exist as a person. And yet, their work creates the conditions that allow you to dream, to heal, to wake again. This quiet devotion feels almost tender. You may notice a subtle shift in your sense of self. You are not just a thinker or a feeler. You are also a vast collaboration of molecules, each doing its part with gentle precision. This does not make you less personal. It makes you more deeply supported. As time passes, some proteins finish their tasks and drift away. Others take their place. The system renews itself continuously, like a river that remains even as its water changes. Stability emerges from constant motion. You rest within this understanding, feeling held by processes older than thought. You do not need to guide them. You do not need to hurry them. They have been doing this work for millions of years. And as your consciousness sinks further into sleep, you begin to sense another quiet layer beneath this activity. A layer of timing and restraint. Not every protein acts at once. Not every instruction is followed immediately. Some things wait. You feel the gentle presence of this waiting as a new question forms softly in the dark. How does the cell know when to act, and when to remain still? How does it choose what to express, and what to keep silent, until the right moment arrives? You rest within the quiet hum of ongoing life, sensing that beneath all this activity there is something even subtler at work. Not motion, but choice. Not urgency, but timing. Inside you, countless instructions exist, yet only some are followed at any given moment. This restraint feels intentional, though no one is intending it. It is simply how balance is kept. Within each cell, the genetic library holds far more information than is ever used at once. Whole chapters remain closed, untouched, resting in darkness. This is not neglect. It is care. To read everything at once would overwhelm the system. And so, most instructions wait, like lights turned off in empty rooms, conserving energy, preserving calm. You imagine DNA again, folded gently, much of it silent. Only small regions open when needed. This opening is guided by signals that reflect the cell's environment. Temperature, nutrients, stress, rhythm. The cell listens constantly, and from that listening, decisions emerge. These decisions do not feel sharp or absolute. They are more like leaning slightly in one direction. When conditions are right, a gene becomes accessible. When they are not, it remains closed. This flexibility allows life to adapt without panic. You sense how different this is from control as you usually imagine it. There is no strict authority inside the cell, no central voice issuing commands. Instead, control arises from sensitivity, from awareness of context, from responsiveness rather than force. Proteins play a quiet role here too. Some act as guardians, binding to DNA and gently blocking access. Others arrive when conditions change, removing those barriers. This coming and going feels like breathing. Open. Close. Pause. Open again. You feel the rhythm of this restraint echoing within your own body. You do not activate every thought at once. You do not act on every impulse. Much of your inner life remains unexpressed, and that is what allows clarity to emerge. Inside the cell, restraint prevents noise. It ensures that energy is directed only where it is needed. The system remains efficient not because it does more, but because it does less. You notice how peaceful this feels. There is no rush to become everything at once. Potential does not demand immediate expression. It is allowed to rest. Some genes respond to long-term signals, slowly adjusting patterns over time. Others react quickly, turning on briefly, then fading. This layered timing creates depth. It allows the cell to respond both to the moment and to the future. As your breathing remains slow and even, you feel comfort in this quiet wisdom. The body is not reactive in the way fear often is. It is discerning. It waits. It listens. Mistakes are less likely when timing is respected. Acting too soon can be as disruptive as acting too late. The cell has learned, through countless cycles, how to wait for alignment. You feel this lesson settling gently into you. That waiting is not absence of action. It is preparation. It is intelligence expressed as patience. Even proteins themselves are regulated this way. Some exist in inactive forms, folded but restrained. They wait for a signal, a change in chemistry, a subtle shift that releases them into action. Until then, they remain still, conserving their potential. You sense how much of life depends on this careful restraint. Growth, repair, healing. All of it requires timing more than force. As sleep deepens, your thoughts become fewer, softer. You are practicing restraint now too. Letting go of what does not need attention. Allowing only what matters in this moment to remain. Inside you, the cell continues its quiet listening. Signals rise and fall. Instructions open and close. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is rushed. You rest with this understanding, feeling held by a system that knows when to act and when to remain still. And as your awareness drifts further into darkness, another gentle question begins to form. If timing and restraint guide action so carefully, what happens when something goes slightly wrong? How does the system respond when translation is imperfect, when small errors slip through the quiet order of things? You remain in the softened space shaped by patience and restraint, and from here, you begin to notice something quietly reassuring. Despite all the care, all the timing, all the precision, things do not always unfold perfectly. And yet, life continues. The system does not collapse. It adapts, gently and intelligently, as if imperfection itself has been expected all along. Inside your cells, translation is remarkably accurate, but it is never absolute. A letter may be misread. A building block may arrive a moment too late. A fold may settle into a shape that does not quite hold. These moments are rare, but they happen. And when they do, the response is calm. There is no alarm inside the cell when something goes wrong. No surge of panic. Instead, there is recognition. A misfolded protein feels different. It exposes surfaces that do not belong on the outside. It lacks the quiet stability of something that fits. This difference is sensed, not judged. Specialized helper proteins notice these irregularities. They do not accuse or assign blame. They simply respond. Some attempt to refold the protein, offering another chance for balance to emerge. They create space, shield the molecule from interference, and allow it to try again. You sense the kindness in this approach. Errors are not immediately discarded. They are first given the opportunity to settle, to adjust, to find a shape that works. Inside you, too, learning often happens this way. Through small corrections, not harsh endings. If the protein still cannot find stability, the system does not cling to it. Letting go becomes the next form of care. The molecule is guided toward dismantling pathways, or it is gently broken down into its basic components. These pieces are not wasted. They are recycled, ready to be used again. Nothing here is treated as useless. Even mistakes contribute. Even failures become resources. This quiet recycling is one of the system's deepest strengths. You feel comfort in this realization. That errors do not accumulate endlessly. That the body knows how to clear what does not serve. That resilience is built not on perfection, but on response. Mistakes can also occur earlier in the process. A message may be copied incorrectly. An RNA strand may carry a slight variation. Often, these changes have no effect at all. The system absorbs them without consequence. Sometimes, they alter function subtly. Rarely, they cause harm. The cell does not attempt to prevent all error. That would require more energy than life can afford. Instead, it balances accuracy with flexibility. Most mistakes are harmless. Some are corrected. A few are tolerated. This balance allows life to move forward without freezing in fear. You sense how different this is from the way you may treat your own mistakes. Inside you, error often feels heavy, personal, urgent. Inside the cell, it feels neutral, informational, simply something to respond to. Over long stretches of time, some errors are not corrected at all. They are passed on. These small changes become part of the genetic story. Most fade quietly. A few persist. And on rare occasions, one offers an advantage, a better fit for a changing environment. This is how learning happens at the deepest level. Not through planning, but through variation and selection. Life experiments constantly, not with intention, but with openness. What works remains. What does not, fades. You feel the vastness of this timescale. The patience required to allow such learning. Nothing here is in a hurry. Evolution itself is slow, deliberate, shaped by countless tiny outcomes rather than dramatic shifts. Inside your body, this same tolerance for variation allows adaptability. Cells adjust their responses. Systems recalibrate. Balance is not static, it is dynamic, maintained through ongoing correction. As you breathe slowly, you feel reassured by this forgiving intelligence. That the system expects error. That it has prepared for it. That imperfection is not a threat, but a condition of life. Even aging reflects this process. Small errors accumulate over time, not as failures, but as records of living. The body responds with repair for as long as it can. Eventually, balance shifts. This too is not a mistake. It is part of the design. You rest with this understanding, feeling a gentle release of pressure. You do not need to be flawless to function. You do not need to avoid every error to continue. Like your cells, you can correct, recycle, and adapt. Inside you, right now, countless tiny adjustments are happening. Proteins are being replaced. Signals are being refined. Mistakes are being softened or cleared away. You are not static. You are always in conversation with change. You notice how calm this conversation feels. No urgency. No blame. Just response. As your awareness drifts further, you sense that all of this accuracy, restraint, correction serves something larger. The ongoing expression of life as you experience it. Breath. Thought. Presence. You feel yourself nearing the end of this inward journey, ready to step back and see the whole arc. From quiet letters, to moving messages, to folded forms, to working molecules, to gentle correction. And as sleep draws you deeper, one final reflection begins to surface softly. If all of this quiet translation shapes every moment of your existence, what does it mean to be you, right now, as the living result of this endless, patient conversation between code and action? You drift in the soft darkness between wakefulness and sleep, and the world within you feels vast. Not vast in a way that overwhelms, but vast in a way that comforts. A quiet universe of processes, unseen yet steady, is working beneath your skin. And as you settle deeper into rest, you begin to feel the full arc of the journey you have been following, how a simple alphabet becomes a living presence. It begins with letters, for small symbols repeated in endless sequence. They do not speak loudly. They do not demand attention. They simply exist, patient and steady. You imagine them as a quiet river of information flowing through time, unbroken, carrying the story of life in a pattern that has endured for millions of years. This is the first stage of you, an archive of potential, waiting in calm. Then, when conditions are right, this archive opens. A small region loosens, and information becomes mobile. RNA copies a message, not to preserve it, but to carry it outward. This is intention forming from stillness. You feel the gentle beauty of this transition. Information is no longer locked away. It becomes a messenger, a note passed into motion. The messenger drifts through the cell, fragile and temporary. It arrives at the ribosome, the gentle workshop where meaning is built through rhythm. The ribosome reads the message in steady steps, 3 letters at a time, like a heartbeat keeping time. Amino acids arrive, one by one, like beads on a string, guided by shape and attraction rather than thought. The chain grows, sequence by sequence, until it is complete. Then it folds, curling into itself, seeking balance and rest. Shape becomes destiny. The folded protein drifts into the cell's busy landscape, ready to do what its form allows. It is not a creature of intention, but it is a creature of purpose. And then, in 1,000 small ways, the protein works. It catalyzes reactions, transports messages, strengthens structures, responds to change. It acts without awareness, without pride, without complaint. It simply does what its shape permits, as part of a larger system that has no central consciousness, yet functions with astonishing coherence. You begin to feel a sense of wonder not at the complexity itself, but at how gently it unfolds. There is no drama in the process. No rush. No need for recognition. Life moves forward because its parts fit together, because its patterns are reliable, because its systems are patient. You realize that you, too, are part of this same unfolding. Your thoughts, your feelings, your memories, everything you experience are shaped by this quiet translation happening within you. Every breath you take is supported by proteins working without applause. Every heartbeat is a conversation between molecules. Every moment of stillness is made possible by countless tiny actions that you do not see. This is not a story of control, but of cooperation. There is no central you directing every detail. Instead, you are the result of countless parts responding to their environment, aligning with what fits, adjusting when needed, letting go when necessary. You are not separate from the process. You are its current expression. You feel a deep softness in this realization. The pressure to be in complete control of yourself begins to loosen. You are allowed to be partly unknown to yourself. You are allowed to be a living outcome of processes too vast to hold in your mind. This is not a loss of agency. It is a release into belonging. You also notice how this process is not linear. It is cyclical. Information is copied, used, and then recycled. Proteins are built, folded, used, and broken down. Cells repair, replace, and renew. Your body is constantly refreshing itself, like a river that is never the same water twice, yet remains the same river. Even sleep itself becomes part of this cycle. When you rest, the body repairs. When you rest, the brain consolidates memory. When you rest, systems recalibrate. Sleep is not an interruption. It is a vital phase of the ongoing translation from code to action. As you sink deeper, you may begin to feel the presence of time differently. Not as something that presses on you, but as something that carries you. The processes inside you are not rushed. They unfold with patience, with rhythm, with quiet confidence. Time becomes a gentle current, not a harsh deadline. You might wonder, as you lie here, what it would feel like to live more like yourselves. To respond with calm, to act only when conditions are right, to correct mistakes without panic, to let go when something no longer fits. To trust that complexity can arise from simple rules followed faithfully over time. You realize that this is already happening. Your body is doing this every moment. You are part of the process. You are not separate from the systems that sustain you. You are the living result of a story that began long before you, and that will continue long after. This understanding brings a quiet gratitude, not just for the wonder of biology, but for the tenderness of it. The body is not a machine built for productivity. It is a living system built for continuity. It holds itself together through cooperation and trust. It repairs itself without complaint. It grows without boasting. It maintains balance through gentle restraint. You feel the last layers of tension in your body begin to dissolve. Your muscles relax. Your breath becomes even softer. You drift closer to sleep, and the internal world you have been exploring seems to glow faintly in the dark. Not with light, but with meaning. You realize that even as you sleep, the story continues. The alphabet remains, waiting patiently. The messages continue to be written. The ribosomes continue their rhythm. Proteins continue to fold, work, and renew. The system continues its quiet translation, not for applause, not for recognition, but simply because this is what life does. And as you surrender to sleep, you feel the gentle presence of the next day, not as a pressure, but as a continuation of this same process. You are not beginning anew. You are simply continuing the ongoing expression of code into action. You rest now, held by the knowledge that life is a calm, persistent flow, one that moves through you, with you, and beyond you, even as the world outside fades into night.